everybody, and welcome to the Katie Weaver Show. This is Katie. I'm your host. I'm so happy to be here. If you are listening live, well, you would be because we're on YouTube now. I'm having a hard time adjusting to not giving the intro I've been giving for the last 15 years. It's good, it makes me shake it up. um, ooh, sorry, that had a sour piece of lemon. This is my favorite drink in the world. Well, non-alcoholic drink, to be honest, but it comes from a local soda shop. I know you guys don't all have soda shops. That's kind of an Idaho, Utah thing, but we have all these soda shops everywhere that, because a lot of people here don't drink. So soda shops have become a big thing. And like there's a soda shop on every corner. But I like these guys because they do non-carbonated drinks because I can't do carbonation at all. And so they're basically a Crystal Light base. And so this one is called the Splashdown, and it's my favorite. It is lemonade Crystal Light with coconut milk and sugar-free lavender syrup and some fresh squeezed lemon, and it's a freaking delight. That's all. I know you really needed to know all of that, but also our pump is out and we have not had water in 24 hours. So if I look like a hot mess, I am a hot mess. The part's supposed to come today though, so we should be fine. And if not, I have plenty of, places I can go to take a shower and fill up some water jugs and stuff until we figure it out. But yeah, sometimes the joys of being on a well, shit goes wrong sometimes. But luckily my husband's handy as hell and he'll have it fixed and figured out before you know it. I hope you guys had a great weekend. We pretty much stayed home. It's really super hot here, like close to 100, which, as you know, we rarely get that hot. A few days in the summer is pretty much it. So we've been pretty much staying in and staying cool. And we did on Sunday night or Monday night, we took a ride. It was Sunday night. Today's Tuesday. I'm catching up. Uh, we went up into the mountains above our house with our side by side and took a night ride. Oh my God. So if you don't know what a side by side is, I keep talking about this, but you might not know. It's like a four-wheeler, only it's ours seats four. But it has like a glass windshield and it's more like a buggy, right? Has a glass windshield, doors, seat belts, all the safety, everything, of course. And we just bought it this spring with a blown motor, and Scott rebuilt the motor. And so we've been tooling around a little bit in it. But anyway, it's been too hot to ride it during the day. It gets kind of hot. So there's no way I'm taking that out in 100-degree weather. So anyway, we waited and went up. We didn't even leave our house till like 8:30. So it was a late night ride. And it was so freaking gorgeous up there. That late at night, it was so cool. It was getting kind of dewy. The forest just smells amazing. Yeah, there's going to be a whole lot more of that in my future this summer. But right now we're a little focused on the water situation. So, you know, kind of need to do that. Anyway, that's what's up in my world. Stupid stuff. That's what. I did make a casserole dish this weekend, a baking dish. It's something I wanted to do with pottery ever since I started doing pottery, is make my own baking dishes. So I made an 8x8. It is sunflower, and it's really freaking cute, and I'm in love with it. So thank you. I can't wait to share it with you when it's done. So it's done being made now. So now it's just it's gonna dry out for a couple of weeks, and then I'll clean it good and put it through a bisque kiln, and then I can glaze it for real and have it and use it. And that's when I'll share it with you guys. But anyway, that's a personal accomplishment for me, so kind of fun. I'm really excited for today's show, and it's going to take every bit of time we have, so I want to get going. But we've been talking about a lot of sacred elements over the last several months. A lot of just things in nature that, or just items that we have in our lives that have strong historic spiritual connotations. We've been diving into that a lot. Last week we did mushrooms. We've done a lot of different animals. This has been a lot of different flowers. So this has been a really interesting series for me, and I hope you guys have enjoyed it. But today we're talking about alcohol and all of the, probably not all of, some of the historical, spiritual connections. And to me, this is a super interesting topic. Now, if you know us at all, you know that Scott has been a winemaker for years and years and years. And every so often he gets the bug again, and we put together a big jug of wine. In fact, years ago, we used to go up into the mountains and pick huckleberries, mountain huckleberries, and make wine. It's actually how we started making wine because we noticed that you couldn't buy huckleberry wine. And if you bought huckleberry spirits, they were always clear, which we thought was really weird considering that huckleberries are dark purple and they stain everything purple that they touch. So obviously, this isn't really authentic stuff, right? So we had decided we're going to learn how to make wine so we can make huckleberry wine. So that's what Scott did. I hate to say we because I was a part of this too, but he was the driving force, so I'm giving him more of the credit. He deserves it. But at any rate, we learned that 1 gallon of huckleberries, which is a lot because picking huckleberries is extremely time consuming. They are teeny tiny, they're smaller than a pea, most of them. And you just got to climb the hillside and pick them off all the bushes. And some years you'll find a lot, some years you won't get much. It's very dicey, but a gallon of and you can buy a gallon of huckleberries. You used to could buy a gallon of huckleberries for like $60. Now they're more like $120, but it's probably the best $120 ever spent because they are a chore to pick. But anyway, beyond that, a gallon of huckleberries will make 5 gallons of wine. We know this. Anyway, we started making huckleberry wine just for us and to share with family and friends, Christmas gifts, stuff like that. And it was so good that we decided to enter it in Wine Magazine's yearly wine contest, and he won a silver medal from Wine Magazine, which I always have thought was just really freaking cool. But anyhow, uh, that's where making spirits began for us. Then we started making cherry cordial from our pie cherry trees. And that's pretty simple. That's just picking cherries and putting them in a decent vodka with some sugar in a jar and shaking them. Every so often, we usually, you pick pie cherries around here, at least in June, and we let that sit until the first part of December and then strain out the cherries and bottle it for Christmas gifts and things like that. Also amazing. And then from there, we started making a lot of different kinds of wine for fun, just to try it out. My aunt she's a landlord. She has a bunch of properties, and she has one property that grows this crazy wild Concord grape patch every year. Like, it's totally untamed. It's insane. And her tenant doesn't use the grapes at all. It just kind of does its thing every year. So we used to go and pick the Concord grapes. We've made vinegar out of those. We've made wine out of those. They actually make a really nice wine. But we've tried wine lots of different ways. We've made mead before. Wine itself, pomegranate wine is one of my favorites. Huckleberry wine, um, choke cherry wine. Those are favorites to me. Wines that I thought were absolutely terrible. Oh God, we we made an orange brown sugar wine once. When I tell you that could have taken the paint off the garage floor, it was crazy. So we saved it because we thought maybe over the years as it aged, it would be interesting to see if it was less vile or if it got better. It did mellow and got somewhat better. Still not something I would reach for at all. Mojito wine. was an interesting one with lime and mint. That was a favorite of our friends and family. But as you can imagine, like most winemakers do, we have cases and cases of wine in our closet because you just it's easy to make a 5 gallon uh, carboy of it. That's pretty much what people do. And ain't nobody out around here is drinking 5 gallons of wine, not even close. So we've just got all of that wine. Yeah. Yeah. And then there's other distilling as well. Gin. Oh, gin. And lemon vodka and a few things like that. So we've had some experience brewing alcohol, and I think it's a super, super interesting process. Very fun to try some different things. And so, thinking about alcohol in history and the spiritual connotations of alcohol to me is a fascinating topic because, as you know, there has been alcohol on this planet. Well, I mean, technically, there's been alcohol on this planet as long as life has been on this planet. Right, Quelly? That's what I should do. Send you some of that orange and brown sugar wine. You can decide if it's good or not. I kid. I would never. I'd send you something good. Uh, pomegranate. I was actually thinking, I wonder if I still have any pomegranate wine. It would be like 8 years old, maybe 5 years old at least. I may have to give it a try. Okay, Spirit made some tapachi with pineapple peel. Interesting. Tara's done cherry cordial with her Nanking cherries. Yum. Honestly, cherry anything, right? My favorite drink recently has been an aviator, besides gin. Have you ever had an aviator? So an aviator is uh, cream of violet and tart cherry liqueur. And I am here to tell you that you need that in your life. If you drink, if you don't, I get it. That's completely acceptable too. But and don't get it too confused. I drink like twice a month. I'm no heavy drinker. My meds don't appreciate it. My body doesn't either. So it's not a very often thing, but I do think most of it is pretty interesting. Let's get into it. All right. So I called this week The Sacred History of Alcohol, a Magic Religion and Ritual. Spirits in every sense of the word. And we'll get there. I was wondering, why do we call alcohol spirits? I'll tell you today. And this is the question I've wondered about a lot of things, but have you ever wondered who first discovered alcohol? Not intentional brews, but like someone who saw some fruit ferment in some kind of a receptacle and drank the liquid and got feeling a certain kind of way, right? Like, who was the first one? I've also wondered who was the first person who decided to eat an egg, for obvious reasons. And lots of other things, but surely it was by accident. But then again, maybe they liked it. Maybe they saw the green fairy, as it were. But I've wondered this about a lot of things. Who was the first person that decided to burn a cannabis plant or figure out which mushrooms were poisonous? And lots of other things that someone else already figured out so that we know it. Now we know about yeast. We understand wild yeast and things like that, right? We understand the chemistry of sugar. I mean, to break that down really into a really basic form, alcohol happens, fermentation happens Well, alcohol happens when a fruit ferments and by the help of yeast, that's how fruit ferments, and there's sugar present either in the fruit itself or that's been added. And the yeast, as they eat the fermenting fruit, the alcohol is the byproduct. So if you really want to get into it, alcohol is basically yeast piss in its finest form. I know, I know. I'm sorry. It's just true, but it's fine. Uh, Alrighty. I always think about how our ancestors must have looked at the world with so much more wonder than we do, right? Because we understand life in a way that other people probably don't. We know things that other people may not, uh, from other generations, right? At least we think we do. We think we know. We think we have things figured out. And, as time goes by, they probably will look back and be like, huh, can you believe that they thought blah, blah, blah? Because as the world turns, as science continues to advance, we learn new things. But just thinking about our ancestors and the world of mysteries they lived in. And fermentation definitely would have been one of those mysteries. Some archaeologists believe that people were making fermented beverages for more than 9,000 years. There's evidence from ancient China where they were creating drinks from rice, honey, and fruit long before the pyramids were built. There is discoveries in the Caucasus Mountains where the earliest winemaking took place and in the Fertile Crescent. They weren't just consumed because they tasted good. There were lots of reasons. In the Dark Ages, a lot of people only consumed ale because it was less likely to make you sick than the water. But they also used alcohol at weddings, funerals, harvest festivals, religious ceremonies, celebrations of every kind. This was a celebratory drink. It was an offering to gods. It was shared with ancestors. They welcomed visitors and sealed agreements between neighbors. Having a drink together was a part of ceremony in lots of different ways. So, for generations, historians have thought that farming began because of the need for grain, for a dependable food source. Because grain can be stored indefinitely, and grain can be used to make bread that can feed you throughout the winter, right? But there is some evidence that brewing might have been just as important as grain for bread, and that a lot of early farming was likely actually for brewing, not for flour, which I think is fascinating. But when you think about that, somewhere along the line, people discovered that drinking ale of some sort was safer, would make you less sick than drinking water. That makes sense. It's really interesting to me. I have found this to be super interesting over the years. Where I live is, I mean, very, very agricultural, right? I mean, Idaho potatoes, that's, if you go into any Five Guys, you're eating potatoes from where I live, probably within miles of me. Um, and lots of other places. Most of the potato chips you eat come from around here. Uh, Dehydrated mashed potatoes, like potatoes. Everyone knows Idaho for potatoes, but there's also a lot of grain that's grown around here. And the bulk of our grain goes to Corona or Budweiser. And I always think it's funny, kind of entertaining or interesting, because I live in a place that's predominantly Mormon, and people in the LDS church don't drink alcohol. That's a huge no-no in this religion. but they do sell their grain to the beer producers. So make that make sense. I can't. Years ago, Budweiser wanted to sponsor a new stadium, a new football stadium at our local high school. And they were willing to put in some big fancy hooty doo stadium, turf, giant scoreboard, the works, but they wanted it to have their name on it, and it was not allowed because that would not be okay. But a small amount of our grain goes to Pillsbury, but the bigger part of our grain goes to Corona and Budweiser. That's just the way it is. Anyway, interesting stuff. People also drank fermented drinks for nourishment. There was a certain factor of nourishment, of nutritional value to drinking as well. And of course, they didn't have an age limit. Children drank ale just like adults drank ale. It was just normal. So beer and bread, I mean, they're closely connected, right? They both originate from grain and water, and it's some level of sugar and yeast, just processed a different way. In ancient Mesopotamia, they embraced brewing so completely that they had a god, Ninkasi, the goddess of beer. So, one of the oldest known pieces of literature in the history of this world is known as the Hymn to Ninkasi. It's a song of praise and it's a brewing recipe. So, one of the most ancient pieces of literature that this world has ever seen is a brewing recipe. So that made me think about, imagine passing your favorite recipes down, not on index cards, but as a hymn sung from one generation to the next. I, I was imagining this thinking, this is my ode to a tuna casserole. Anyway, super interesting. The ancient Egyptians, beer was a daily staple, but also was in temples and religious festivals and tombs. People that helped build the pyramids were often paid in bread and beer that weren't slaves. Families brewed at home, priests brewed for ceremonies. Jars of beer were placed in tombs because people believed the dead would continue their journey into another world where they would need it. Wine has its own sacred stories, particularly around the Mediterranean, where vineyards were flourishing. Grapevines demand a lot of patience. You don't just plant them one year and by fall you have a harvest. Not usually. It takes, uh, for one thing, the right soil, it takes the right climate, and then it takes all of the right nurturing to even get grapevines to grow. And then to get the grapes to be the kind, the quality of grape you need for wine is a whole nother story. It is an art. Now, Scott has tried and tried to make grapes grow here. Now we are a zone 4. We're so cold. And there's only a few grapes that will grow here, but we've never been able to get grapes to take off, ever. Now, part of our problem is that we have an acre, we have plenty of room, but we have so many trees. And I'm not complaining because I love my trees, but it has definitely curtailed what we can grow because we have so much shade. Again, not really complaining, but it's why we've struggled more. We tried to grow Moscato grapes because Moscato is by far my favorite wine, but we just couldn't. We ordered bare root several times and tried, and we just couldn't get them to take off. Even the ones that were cold hardy or were supposed to be, but we just couldn't do it. But again, growing grapes really takes very specific conditions to get the best grapes. And the Mediterranean is a perfect place for grapes. So is the Treasure Valley, the Boise area of Idaho. Believe it or not, there are a lot of vineyards there, that have world-class wine and are considered to be one of those places that has elite growing conditions. Fascinating stuff. So the ancient Greeks, they celebrated the mysteries of fermentation through Dionysus or Dionysus. I've heard that both ways. That's a god who's really misunderstood. Popular culture, we usually portray him as the god of wine and wild parties. But actually, he was a god that represented creativity, theater, fertility, celebration, emotional freedom, and the untamed rhythms of nature. His festivals invited people to set aside carefully constructed identities for a while and remember what it felt like to be human. He was just all about allowing yourself to be. By the way, I saw a TikTok today of a drag show with two performers, and they were performing to that song from Dirty Dancing, The Time of My Life. And it was Skeletor and He-Man, and it was the funniest thing I've ever seen. So go find that. Speaking of Dionysus, the Romans had similar ideas through Bacchus, also a god that represented essentially partying it up. Then we talk about Jewish and Christian traditions. In Judaism, wine helps mark the Sabbath and holy days. Of course, you know, in Christianity, they carried that a step further to use wine to symbolize the Last Supper and remembrance to covenant, sacrifice, and love, basically in using wine as a sacrament as the blood of Christ. Unless you're Mormon and then it's water. And some churches just use grape juice. I know that. Let's talk about mead. We know about the wonder of honey and the spiritual uses of honey. We've talked about it this spring on the show. At some point, of course, someone figured out that honey could be fermented into a drink called mead. I have a love-hate relationship with mead. We have made mead. I hated it. Yeah, Lillian said mead, blah. Yeah, same. Did not like mead. I bought some choke cherry mead out of Montana that was awesome. I will say that. But our homemade mead was just honey. We didn't put any other fruit in it. You can, but the original mead was just fermented honey water, essentially. Not a fan. Ugh. Ugh. But mead has there's been a lot of mead brewed on this planet, partly just because that's was the access to sugar that a lot of people had. Throughout Europe, Scandinavia, and the British Isles particularly, it became the drink of celebrations, weddings, harvest festivals, and sacred ceremonies. It found its way onto the tables of kings, into the halls of monasteries, and deep into the mythology of countless cultures. Yeah, for sure. But it's not amazing. This is a Norse a story from Norse mythology that after a great war between two groups of gods, they chose to make peace in an unusual way. Each of them spat into a single vessel, but as a symbol of their agreement. From that shared offering came Cavasir, a being so wise that there wasn't a question in existence he couldn't answer. Kings sought his counsel, travelers crossed great distances to hear him speak, and wisdom itself seemed to live within him. Eventually, Cavasir was killed by two dwarves who mixed his blood with honey and created a magical mead. Whoever drank that mead received extraordinary gifts. Suddenly they could write beautiful poetry, tell unforgettable stories, and speak with remarkable wisdom, and create works that inspired everyone around them. The mead eventually came into the possession of the giants. Before Odin, Never one to pass up an opportunity, stole it, and carried it back to the gods. So I guess you drink bloody mead and you can be super creative. Oh, sorry about that. Oh, Tara said, oops, I just texted my boss instead of the chat. LOL. She said, yesterday was the 30th anniversary of my cousin's passing, and his brother still leaves beer on his grave. Yeah, that's so sweet. So, as we know, honey itself has been used to honor the divine and honor people throughout history. And Tara, you're reading my mind because before people drank, a lot of times they poured. It's one of the oldest spiritual traditions that we know of, is people making an offering with their drink. So imagine standing outside at sunrise with a cup of fresh wine or mead in your hands, and before your first sip, you kneel and pour a little of it onto the earth. This could be gratitude for harvest. It could be remembrance of someone who has passed. It could be an acknowledgement of everything you have. It could be a request, a prayer, any kind of blessing. But for thousands of years, people made an offering to the earth with whatever they were drinking, particularly a fermented drink. That has fallen out of favor with us because we're inside. And if you be pouring that on the floor in my kitchen, I'm going to be mad at you. The Greeks poured wine before important ceremonies. The Romans honored the spirits of their homes and ancestors with daily offerings. Throughout many African traditions, libations remained an important way to honor those who came before and asking for their wisdom and protection. So I don't know. Next time you pour a drink, consider trotting outside real quick and making a little offering. It's an interesting thought. I kind of love it, actually. We do some things, like Tara said, leaving beer on her cousin's grave. Wine is poured onto graves sometimes, a cup of ale by a memorial. Rice wine is often placed on family altars in Asian countries. Whiskey could be shared during a remembrance gathering. We still do it, just in different ways. After the fall of the Roman Empire, a very unexpected group became responsible for preserving a lot of ancient traditions, particularly brewing, and that is in monasteries. Monasteries really picked up the brewing, the art of brewing at one point, and monks spent centuries tending gardens, copying manuscripts, and studying medicine and brewing beer and wine. Not because they were necessarily looking for a good time, but brewing was part of the way they cared for their communities. They were always open to pilgrims that were traveling through that needed clean, nourishing food and drink, and providing these things were a part of that. They also, of course, used alcohol as medicine, and that was another part of the reason that they brewed. But monks would grow all of their own, needed ingredients, and then brew their products with their own hand. And it became a really sacred study of learning to be a master brewer. So through time, we have all these monasteries that got to be really well known for their remarkable wines and liqueurs. They gathered herbs from the monastery gardens and surrounding forests and blended them into medicinal preparations to support everything from digestion to restful sleep. Rosemary, sage, chamomile, elderberries, rose petals, lavender, mint, and lots of other plants and ended up in their carefully crafted recipes that were passed down from masters and teachers to students over many, many, many generations. It's pretty interesting, but let's talk about the Carthusian monks. Have you ever heard of Grand Chartreuse? This is Grand Chartreuse. It's a liqueur. It is a botanical liqueur. I have been trying to get my hands on chartreuse for years. It's tough to get. It's tougher to get in Idaho because the way Idaho handles liquor is very, very controlled. And so you can't just get anything here. You can only get here what the state dispensary chooses to carry because nearly all liquor stores actually are just state dispensaries, but they also are the only place that bars can purchase alcohol here in Idaho. And so if the state dispensary doesn't carry it, you can't get it. And our state actually does carry chartreuse in theory, but it's gotten super hard to get. But I'll tell you about chartreuse and why it has become hard to get. So this is in the mountains in southeastern France in a monastery. These are the Carthusian monks. They have been guarding one of history's greatest secrets for almost 300 years. In 1737, they started producing this really famous herbal liqueur known as Grand Chartreuse, using a recipe that's so carefully protected that only a handful of monks know the complete formula at any given time. Basically, they split the knowledge up between various people so that you know that these are the parts you put in, and then you know these are the parts you put in. Yeah, they have guarded it very carefully. So it's become legendary not just for its vibrant green color, but also for the mystery surrounding its creation. It was developed as an herbal elixir believed to support health and vitality. It reflects a tradition that we've seen throughout this journey where monasteries and their sacred gardens are being used as spaces for creating brews that are meant to nourish body and spirit. It's amazing. But what's happened with Grand Chartreuse, they actually have two kinds now, but they're both under the Grand Chartreuse label. But these liqueurs have gotten to be so popular that the monks finally announced a couple of years ago that they are stepping way back production. And so they only create, I can't remember, it's like 1 million bottles a year now versus a lot more that they used to do. But essentially they said they're tired. They're not going to make as much anymore. So if you have Grand Chartreuse, you have a gem because it's tough to get. And I think someday I'll come across it. I doubt I like it all that much, but I'm dying to try it. So anyway, one of these days, right? So let's talk about calling alcohol spirits. This comes from medieval alchemy. Early alchemists believed that everything possessed an invisible essence, or a spirit. When they distilled wine, they watched vapor rise into the air before condensing into clear liquid. So to them, it looked as though the spirit of the wine had separated from its physical body. They even called it spiritus vini, which translates into the spirit of wine. And that name has stayed with us. Super fascinating. Now we know that people learned to create alcohol from whatever was around them. You have grapes, you're making wine. You have lots of different fruits, you're making wine. You've got grain, you're going to brew beer or ale. You've got honey, you're going to have mead. You've got rice, you've got corn, you've got palm sap, agave. That completely controlled what the ancients made. Now we have access to pretty much anything, and you could make whatever you wanted or purchase it. But back, in the time of our ancestors, that of course was not the case. So every region had its own sacred drink because they were using what they had. So wine, of course, originated in the ancient Mediterranean, and it was poured as an offering to the gods and the dead, shared during ceremonial banquets, and used to mark agreements, celebrations, and sacred gatherings. Some Greek funerary vessels were even designed with openings that allowed liquid offerings to pass directly through the earth toward the person buried below. Can you imagine that? Gotta go give Grandpa his whiskey again. That's so macabre. It is very moving to provide that kind of a dedication to the dead, but it also kind of makes me laugh. Okay. Beer was more practical, nourishing, and connected to ordinary people who planted the grain, harvested it, baked the bread, kept the communities alive, as well as brewed the beer. In Mesopotamia and Egypt, beer was a part of daily nourishment and also appeared in temple offerings and religious celebrations. Mead, of course, we know by fermenting honey and water, became associated with abundance, inspiration, marriage, and divine favor. In Norse mythology, the mead of poetry granted wisdom and eloquence to those fortunate enough to drink it, beautifully connecting the beverage with storytelling, creativity, and inspired speech. Hey, I'll drink mead. Only, only the choke cherry kind. In Japan, sake became much more than a drink served with a meal. Ritual sake vessels were created for use in Shinto shrines, where sake was offered to the kami. That was the divine presences believed to inhabit nature, spaces, or places and ancestral connections. Sake became a part of wedding traditions, helping mark the moment when two people and their families were joined together. In the Andes, people created chica or chicha from fermented corn. That's an ingredient that was at the center of life, agriculture, and survival for the people in the Andes. Chicha appeared in ceremonies, community celebrations, and political relationships. Pulque uh, had a place in central Mexico, made from the fermented sap of the maguey or agave plant. It was not simply an early version of drinks we associate with agave, which would be tequila now. It had its own identity, history, and sacred meanings. Pulque was linked to deities, fertility, agricultural abundance, and particular ceremonial occasions. There was a lot of rules about who could drink pulque and how much they could drink. We do that now for a good reason. Palm wine was developed throughout parts of Africa and other tropical regions where sap of palm trees could be collected and naturally fermented. I have never had palm wine. Have you guys? Anyone? Super curious about that. Depending on the culture and the ceremony, it might be shared during weddings, agreements, community gatherings, or poured as a libation to ancestors and spiritual beings. There's a Jala tradition from the Senegal and the Gambia. Palm wine libations were offered in a sacred forest to confirm a bond between the two communities. As distillation spread, stronger herbal spirits and liqueurs began carrying forward. That's we kind of started with wine and beer, and then we started figuring out more intense ways to drink. More stronger stuff, right? This, of course, is where monasteries really stepped in because they had access to the gardens, libraries, and the knowledge. Of course, chartreuse is one of those examples. Absinthe developed a really different reputation. Absinthe is made from wormwood, anise, fennel, and other botanicals. It was very popular in 19th century France. And in fact, my tip of the week is a big chart about absinthe and the way it was used. The old common saying was that if you drink enough absinthe, you'd see the green fairy. Um, this is absinthe. This one is a little yellower. I have had some before that's a lot darker green, but that's the kind this is. This is Libertine absinthe out of France. Absinthe is a different drink than anything you have ever had. Absinthe is intensely alcoholic. And so the way people drink it is that they mix it with water and with sugar. So if you've ever seen an absinthe spoon, they're these fancy little spoons that you sit on top of your glass and your glass of water, and you put a sugar cube on top of the absinthe spoon. I don't have an absinthe spoon. I wish I did. I've just had to just do it a redneck way. But and then they would drop drops of absinthe over the sugar cube into the cup to get the perfect combination of water, absinthe, and sugar. I am here to tell you you should do that or some kind of a mixer because absinthe will knock you on your ass. Just taking a shot of it, you shouldn't. Oh my gosh. The first time we bought absinthe, we didn't know that. And I just wanted to try it. I'd always heard about the Victorian ladies drinking it and seeing the green fairy and whatever. I wanted to try it. So there was a group of people here. We were having a gathering, and so we had bought absinthe. And Scott tasted it in the kitchen, and I'm not kidding when I say he fell on the floor it, in shock and agony because he just took a swallow. Be careful with absinthe. But because it is made from wormwood, wormwood can be very toxic to some people. So some people just can't do absinthe. And you'll know if you try it and you can't stop throwing up, you should not drink absinthe. You have to be very careful. But absinthe has a very rich history. This came, by the way, from this really cool liquor store in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, that you can taste everything. All of their alcohols are in these cool containers that have little spouts on them, and the employees can just get little teeny cups of them and you can try. And you can wander through there and taste anything you want to decide what you want to buy, which I really love because we've all bought stuff and got it home and went, "Oh God, I don't see myself ever wanting to drink this." Anyway, this is where this absinthe came from, and they did have a fancy setup of with the dropper, the water, and the stuff, and I loved it, so we bought some. But anyway, there's been a lot of lore about absinthe over the years. So the rumors, of course, were that it causes hallucinations, madness, or uncontrollable behavior. That was mostly just people getting really drunk because you cannot use very much absinthe. It is just a completely different breed. Kind of like Jaeger, honestly, if you've ever drank Jägermeister. It's a different kind of buzz than from other alcohols. But so that created some moral panic, right? Sensational stories, poor quality alcohol also, people not doing things correctly or, maybe making fraudulent drinks, things like that. That created some social problems with absinthe, and it was actually became illegal in a lot of countries for a while. It was illegal in the US for a while. That's not a big surprise, but the mythology of absinthe has endured, and even now, some countries, you can't get absinthe. But absinthe represents something wild, artistic, and just beyond the edge of respectable society. That's where I would like to live. I have no interest in respectable society. I'd rather be a little more wild, a little more artistic, and a little more just myself. Interesting stuff. So, rum, whiskey, vodka, and other distilled spirits have also found their way into ancestor offerings, folk traditions, healing preparations, and community rituals. I mean, the choice of drink wasn't based on ancient theology as much as it was based on what people had and what they could get. Now you can pretty much get anything. Wasn't necessarily the same. Really interesting stuff. And that's pretty much what I've got. The article's a little longer than that. You're welcome to read through it. But those are some of the spiritual uses. A lot of it really has to do with offerings. Offerings and showing respect to gods or ancestors. And of course, medicinal purposes, because there are many medicinal purposes. I mean, alcohol made it so that we didn't get so sick all the time. Speaking of getting sick, have you guys heard about this whole bacterial breakout? 38 states I read this morning are now affected by it. It's they think it's from contaminated produce, particularly shredded lettuce. They're tracing it back to Taylor Farms. It's bad enough that Taco Bell. Now listen, this causes apparently horrific diarrhea. Okay, it is so bad that Taco Bell has pulled all Taylor Farms products from their stores. This is making people so sick that Taco Bell's concerned about it. And that's their business. Anyway, if you have any Taylor Farms product in your house, please get rid of it. People are getting super sick. Super, super sick. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to. When I learned about this, I had Taylor Farms snap peas and 2 bags of Taylor Farms pre-bagged salads in my fridge. No longer. Not doing it. But anyway, just take that warning because the CDC or the USDA has not made a statement on it yet, but they're moving slow because, our government's not really operating properly right now. So it's actually independent scientists that have studied the DNA of the bacteria that's causing this, and they are the ones that have come to this conclusion that it's coming from Taylor Farms. So I'm just warning you because I don't want any of you guys to get sick. Alrighty. Well, that is what I've got. There's a whole section in there about giving toasts and the history of alcohol and toasts and a part of spirituality that plays as well. Yeah, you can't get rid of it by rinsing. It has to be cooked. So just throw it all away. Don't even try it. It's not worth the $5 you spent on it or $10 or whatever. Just get rid of it. You'll spend that in Pedialyte. Lillian said Jaeger, never again. Okay, Jaeger never again because of the taste. So Jaeger is a black licorice liqueur or anise. Anise. Uh, and some people really don't like the way it tastes. I happen to really like Jaeger. Uh, Rhonda and I are both big Jaeger fans, but Jaeger just came out with an orange liqueur too, by the way, that is fantastic. But uh, yeah, so Lillian, I'm curious. Jaeger never again because of it messed you up, or Jaeger never again because you hated the way it tastes? Curious. Few things. Kelly McLean, she has got a brand new bitch story for us. You can listen to it right here on that yellow or red, pink. Good Lord, pink hyperlink. But you can also read all about it right here. Her article is called They Made Us Invisible From the Ugly Laws to Disability Pride. Pretty great. Also, Kelly has a big announcement coming, and she's going to be on this show coming up here in the next few weeks. So, very, very excited for that. I'll keep you posted. I know you have missed her beautiful face. I have too. All right. So, the history and use of absinthe is right here, all written up for you, so that you can get a sense of what it's all about. Christy's energy exercise this week is Archangel Ariel, healing anxiety. If you've seen the Green Fairy over at True Crime Squad, there's plenty of crime. Lots of meditations over at Planet Meditation. And that is what I've got. So I hope that you got some gems from this and found it to be as interesting as I did. Pretty fascinating stuff, in my opinion. I want to remind you that I am a professional psychic advisor over at one2listen.com. You can find me over there doing readings, healings, animal communication, mediumship. I'll help you with anything I can. If it's important to you, please know that it is important to me. Always. You are important to me. So if there's something that's important to you that you bring to me, that's going to be as important to me as it is to you. Sometimes people act like they say they're sorry for bothering me with something so minimal. That's not the case. Nothing is minimal. If it's in your life and it's affecting you, it's important enough, right? Alrighty. Well, you can find me there every single day at One2Listen. Just look for me, Katie Weaver, and I'll do my best to help you out. Otherwise, I will be back here next week, same place, same time. I'm sure you've noticed that One2 Radio has gone all to YouTube. All you have to do is go to one2radio.com, number 2, radio.com. And you'll see all of our banners there, and you can just click on them and it will take you to our direct YouTube channel. So we aren't centralized in the way of like YouTube or of radio streaming anymore. We just all have our individual shows. So I know a lot of you guys have really enjoyed seeing everybody's faces and experiencing their shows this way, and this is the future for us. So I'm loving it. Alrighty. Thank you for being here, guys. Have a great week. Please take really good care of yourselves. This has been yet another production of The Katie Weaver Show. Take care and have a great week.